Good afternoon. Hello. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you are watching from. I hope you've had a fabulous weekend. I know it's Tuesday, but still. Maybe someone still hung up from the weekend, maybe not. But Moweni, Sunny Bonani, Unjani, I think is the Moweni one. And the Sunny Bonani one, I'm yet to learn. I hope you guys are all good and great and amazing. Today, we are speaking about a term that is used predominantly in the Kali community, and but in South Africa nonetheless. And apparently, its use isn't even for the context that it's used in mostly these days. So we're going to speak about Ougat. So in my trying to find out where this word comes from and how it came about that we use it in context for what we do today, originally, it's used for clever, original, and even cool in some areas, and smart. How cool is that? Like, oh, it originated was used for that. So, Wagner Afrikaans Library, word of the day on the March 15th, 2018, it said Ougat means cute, or also original or clever. And it has nothing to do with old or bum, the literal translation. And he uses an example which is really cool. It says, "Dis nou Ougat, what a great idea." Or, "Yes, sis, maar jy's Ougat. Geez, you're clever." And how that has become what we know today is really, really, I don't know. So, Ougat, I personally have used it in context of um, family members or just hearing it on the street walking somewhere and someone shouts or says "Nee is Ougat" or "Nee is." I'm sorry, my Afrikaans is like not from the base, so bear with I. It's it's just been used in, like, for instance, if a child comes home and they say that the child's probably between the ages of 3 upwards, 4 upwards, when you learn words and you say them. And then the child comes on and says, "Oh, I have a girlfriend at creche or kindergarten." And um, my very skew. Is it me or my video? Anyway, this blouse is sponsored by um, Mommy Couture because I raid my mom's closet on the daily, weekly now that I don't see her every day. And I borrowed this from her. Thank you, Mommy. Um, So yeah, so the child comes home and says, "I have a girlfriend at school," and then an auntie or an uncle or grandma or grandpa would say, "Nee, hy's Ougat," and or "Hey ho vir Ougat," or "Say ho vir haar Ougat," and it's just, and then that's where it stops. And then again, maybe you'll hear it a few years later, where, for instance, I've used this example quite a bit now on the channel, where I say a child is being caught touching herself, playing with herself or himself, and then it's "Nee, hou op, dis Ougat. Jy hou vir jou Ougat." Of old fashioned is another term that is used like, collectively with this Ougat term. And my uncle told me other terms, but they're in Afrikaans and I can't remember them at the moment. I'm sorry. Um, um, is it vroeg? Vroeg greep? I must probably have him on here to talk about it. Né? And so all of these terms will be like they're here, and then again, it's just near your Ougat, and then again it ends right there. And then perhaps in the later years, in growing up, you'll hear this term Ougat in, say, when you finally have a cattle or something, and then or actually just people say it because you're younger than them. That you're younger than them, and then jy hou vir jou Ougat, and then they I this word and my Afrikaans is so lekker, man. So it's just, yeah, we just use this word, or I've heard the word a lot in terms of that. Or for instance, I heard the word again. Someone got married and they were really young, and then someone else said "Nee, hulle hou vir hulle Ougat," and it's just I honestly don't know what the word means or where it comes from. I've just heard it in these contexts, and obviously from Warner's lovely Afrikaans library, he said that it actually means smart or clever or original or cute. And I know that we use oh look for cute when someone is cute or something that you do is cute or your idea is really good or something like that. So that is one context we use it, we hear it in, but predominantly for myself, and I'm sure the colored community at large, we hear this context in a shameful way. Usually it is to deter something that is kind of sexualized, and then it stops right there. And not that I have a problem with this word, I really don't. I would love to know more about it, in fact. So if anybody is willing to share like where exactly this word comes from and how we got to 2020 or whatever ages or whatever year it started being used as a connotation for shamefulness in terms of sexuality and sex, I would love to know. Um, so basically, yeah, I just want to get to the point where this word I've always heard it. I'm sure you've heard it too, or whoever else has heard it too in context of being shameful. So we spoke about shame again in sexual trauma, like the very first episode or first video, and how these shameful traumas stay with us like forever sometimes. So this word again, I've always only heard it in don't do that or you are being like this and that's it. And I would love if perhaps we could take this word and then I don't know if we could use it in another context other than it being shameful, but to then if you're gonna say this word and then to just not stop there, because I've always just heard it in a we is Ougat and it stops there. What I would like, what I would hope for one day, if we would say this term, if someone uses this term, but then please educate me, please educate us. I know that sex education is something that is very party all over the place and involves so many things. And as adults, sometimes they aren't always open to speaking to us about sex and sexuality and all the things that involve sex. So that's also okay. Well, not exactly, but it is. I mean, some people just aren't ready, and that's fine. You are ready at your own pace, at your own time. But what I would love if it's not just a closed off thing where you say, yes, Ougat, and then that's it. And I'm saying this so many times, but that's literally how many times I've heard it. And it's just like, in what context am I hearing this case Ougat in? Or what did she mean by that? Or what did he mean by this? And it's always ever used to put somebody down, to shame them, and to then stop them from what they are doing or saying that particular moment, and then that's it. I would like if this word could evolve to where this particular auntie, man, uncle is saying yes, Ougat, but then also says, you know what, you are at an age right now where you might explore yourself like individually, or you might read or find things on the internet about sexuality and want to know more, or just about sex and to speak about these things and not say yes, okay, and then stop it right there. I mean, I think in our community and society as a whole in South Africa, our attitude and our what is this word, this the way we look at sex is not so great. It's obviously very unfortunately patriarchal and misogynist. But we should then change that and open it to say that we should be able to speak about sex and sex in a positive way. Well, I'm hoping we could do that one day and soon, inshallah, but we'll see. So yeah, for this word to then just for it not to be the last thing we hear in terms of sex education or enriching somebody's knowledge about a particular topic. And this topic that is so not spoken about in a positive way. So, again, this word, I would love if an auntie or somebody just said, you know what, hey, yeah, this Ougat, maar, Afrikaans is not working at the moment. But here, let me tell you about this. Let me point you to a website or a book or something where you can learn about sexuality and sex and exploring. Because, yeah, someone at 8 and 9 years old or even 7 is not going to know what Ougat really means or where it comes from. So, at that point in time, you are inflicting a kind of trauma, a kind of harm on a child or on a person. And then that's just it. There's Ougat. It's don't do it again. It's ever. It's ugly And then the person again grows up to be looking at sex and their bodies as shameful and ugly and not a great place or not a great thing, when in fact sex is and supposed to be so many other things. And I'm not sure if you guys remember from the video with Katrina, the sexologist, who said that they found 237 reasons why people have sex, and that pleasure and exploration is just one or two of them. So that again, it's just how we look at this particular word, Ougat. I would like for it to be in a different light, for it not to be just a deterrence and a shameful thing and ew, that's ugly and terrible, don't do it. I would love for it, for if it is ever used instead, to say, hey, you're doing this thing at the moment, or you've come home and you've said you have a boyfriend and girlfriend at whatever crash thing it is. I mean, someone who's 2 and 3, they say things like that, and it's funny. Well, I don't think it's funny. Sorry, I'm not of the opinion that that is funny. But children are children, and they can learn from us, the people who use those words like "ogat" or "old-fashioned" or things like that. So we can say that, like, you're 2 or 3, not really appropriate. It's not really. I don't think it's appropriate. But if you have another opinion, sure, that's fine. Um, and then if someone who is 8 or 9 who is caught touching themselves, can you say, you know, you're at this age where you want to explore and things like that. I'm saying everything I said a few minutes ago, but that is important. I feel like the way, yeah, right? Words, to me, I'm a very, very big word person. I love words. I love reading. I like writing. And words, a word or a few words, a phrase will stick with me for forever. That sounds very daddy. But it's true. So, what if this particular word can be used? Is this light too much? Okay, let's take it. Um, what if this word can be used in a different way? And obviously, the way we receive this word, "ochat," again, goes on with us forever. So, if we could just take this word and, well, we can't change it. I mean, people are so set in their ways. That's okay. But we can teach you something new. We can enlighten you to something else, to a different option, to another way, or to saying this and saying something else, and not just leaving it there by just "ochat" and then what is my life after this word. Um, so yes, that is the one thing I wanted to speak about is this word "ochat" and how we can hopefully change the way people use it and see it, and then also what you say after this word comes, because that's important. I think the way you use the word, the way you say it is important, is what comes after that particular word is said, because how that child, that person takes this word is also important. So if we could just change our mindsets just a little bit in terms of that. And I'm hoping to speak about other words, not just Ogat, and then other words in, say, Xhosa communities or Zulu communities or um, I don't know, it's Indebele or Setswana. Like I'm sure there are other words in communities like that that are also used the way Ogat is used. And then it's just that there's no enlightening, no education after that, no knowledge given or brought and said in exchange for this Ogat word, even if you've said it already, to just be like, here are other things or another way to look at this word or to use it in context of sex education and sex positive conversation. That is another thing in our country that we need to, in our country, in our continent, we should really look at sex positive conversation. I think it's really important. And especially the way we see women in terms of sex positive conversation. Because I'm sure if you have watched the video between Destiny and I, the conversation Destiny and I had on YouTube, I posted some highlights on here. You might think it is very, very feminist forward, very like we're speaking down on men and like women empowerment is men empowerment, and it's really not. I would love for you to understand or to know that like some people would say sex is patriarchal and misogynist because it's literally just for the man and the man's pleasure. And another thing is sex and pleasure, but we'll speak about that later on. We need to understand that women haven't always had, I don't want to say a voice because Meghan Markle had this beautiful video that says giving them a voice isn't correct because they've always had one. We need to give them something for them to use that voice that they have and for them allow them to speak it and hear it and say it. So yeah, and my thing is, women and sexuality have always, or female sexuality has always been there. It's just that we are only now in the recent years been able to come forward and say, hey, I have this and that, and female pleasure, and all of these things that we shout from the rooftop in the last few, like the last decade, I think. And that is great. We need to change that more so that, like, how feminists want equality. And I think very much the cliteracy thing is about equality, and equality in terms of orgasms, and equality in terms of sex and sexuality, for us to speak about things openly like that. So I think that's really important, again, not only in our country, but in our continent. And this voice is going to be really short today. It's not going to be as long and as big, but listening. So obviously communication, they say, is very important. It is key, and it is whatnot, and it is this, and it is all these great things, which are true. Listening, however, is another thing. I know that this and sex education and sex positive conversation is going to be had whether I did it or somebody else did it, or their sexologists do it, or their Facebook channels and YouTube channels and what other thing, Instagram and Twitter. These conversations are going to be had, whether they happen now, or later, tomorrow. They're going to be had. However, if you aren't, I can talk about sex education and the word Ougat and doers. Isn't that also a term that is used? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. If those things are used, like nobody's going. Let me just pull myself towards myself. Um, what was I saying? So yeah, everything is going. These conversations are going to happen, but if you aren't open enough and open to listening to these conversations, and actually in listening, comprehending what is being said, how are we going to go forward as a country, as a society, as a continent in terms of sex positive conversation? That to me was really important. Because just this morning, I spoke to a friend of mine about communication. Because on the Instagram, I saw something, and then what the latter thing was conversation influences this particular thing. And that is really true. Conversation is a huge thing, a big thing, but so is listening. So is listening with comprehension. And I know that sex education and sex positive conversation isn't exactly new, but it is new to some of us in society. So, in all of the sex education things, you might think as a man it is attacking, or as a. Oh, there are so many other terms that I can't think of at the moment. It is never to attack or. Whew, where is English? Okay, so it's never to attack you, or it's never to harm you, or to have malice against you. It is always to inform you. It is always to kinda enlighten you. And also, obviously, to have this sex positive notion in the back of your head, because it is really important in our society today. I think that I myself and so many other people can come on here and speak about sex and pleasure and female this and male this and pornography this or those things, or clitoris this or female penis or male penis this. But if nobody is willing and open to listening, what is the point of it all? Why are we like, how are we going to get ahead as a country, as a continent, if nobody is going to listen? And I know that I speak about our continent a lot. I love our continent. I'm sorry. Not even I'm sorry. I love our continent too much, in fact, some days. That I would just love to open the narrative of the way we see sex in just this tunnel vision kind of thing. Like, sex doesn't necessarily mean penetration. Sex doesn't mean two people in a relationship that have sex once a month or once a week because of this. And also, intimacy doesn't necessarily mean sex. So, how are you supposed to know those things? You listen to your partner, you listen to the person, you listen to whoever it is that you are with, or even if you are alone, listen to your body, listen to yourself. So listening, I think, was just a thing that I was thinking of today, this morning. And yeah, we have to be open to listen. We have to be willing to not even learn, but just hear information. And then from that information, we can then make great decisions for ourselves, for our partners, for whoever it is. And then that's it. So I hit the 20-minute mark and I wanted it to just be 20 minutes. So I'm going to say kind of goodbye. But I hope that if anybody wants to speak or to even comment or say something about where this word Ougat comes from, how it how it came to be used, or how it came to what is happening? How it came to be that it is used in such a context. I think that is great phrasing. In such a context of a shameful, like a yeah, man, you know what I meant. I've said it for like 15 minutes earlier on. So if anybody wants to tell me about that, I would be so grateful. And if anybody again wants to come on and speak about like other words in other communities, other societies that I haven't mentioned, well, obviously I don't know them, so I haven't mentioned them. But I would love to know about them. I know I'm sure there are other words as well that people use in the also communities in Zulu and things like that. So please do tell me. I would love to know. And we obviously want to educate people and enlighten them about these things. And then also how they approach these words and then how they are used. And also, so yeah, let's talk. I think sex positive conversation is something that is high time we have. I mean, it happens. It happens daily, hourly, and it happens in sometimes the most gruesome of ways that we find out on News 24 or something like that. But we need to speak about it so that we can enlighten ourselves for the decisions we make and then hopefully enlighten the generations to come. Because obviously, we want people to be making decisions about sex all the time that are good. So, if we're gonna have to start that sometime, right? So, I'm hoping we could start that together. And then we can have our entire country, our entire continent speaking about sex positive stuff and making great decisions and having our sex education and our schoolings be very different, which would be great. So have a beautiful Tuesday, rest of the Tuesday. I hope you have a great week. I hope it's productive. I hope you get that promotion. I hope your CV in that whatever place you applied for is looked at and they say, yes, this candidate we want. Or I hope your dinner or your lunch tastes amazing because I'm a big foodie. Look at me. I hope you have a fabulous time on whatever holiday you're on, perhaps, whatever break you're having. Take care of yourself. Remember, those things are really important. And also, your feelings are valid and you are allowed to feel them for however long you want. But don't forget, once you get up from feeling those feelings, you're going to be a boss person. There we go. So, have a great time. Thank you again for listening and watching. And just bye, ducky.